Jax got to the hangar, they found controlled chaos. Sarah had put the refugees in defensive positions, but every face showed fear as they looked out of the U-boats. At the thousands of shadow creatures pressing against the shields that were failing, the barriers flickered with each hit, and reality itself was pushed to its limits. Report, Maya yelled as she ran to Sarah's command post. Tarek yelled from his makeshift comm station. Yields are at 60% and dropping. At this rate of decay, we might have 30 minutes before they break down completely. Sarah added with a frown. The possessed crew members are also back to work. They're checking every locked door. It's like they now were stuck in here and are just waiting for the right time to attack. Maya brought up a holographic display of the ship's system while they were in the archive. The entity had been busy. Its corruption had spread to many subsystems, and it was methodically working to cut off all escape routes and isolate the hangar. It's making us do something, Jack said, looking at the same information, making us carry out our plan before we're ready. Or it knows what we're up to and wants us to try, Maya said. Either way, we don't have time to talk about it anymore. Jax, can you get to the power core and start making changes? Alone, Maya, that's a job for at least two people. Just the core shielding needs. I'll go with him. Someone from the crowd said. Thomas Kim, the old engineer who had fought with the wrench during the stand of the hangars, stepped forward. I don't know how alien technology works, but I've been working with reactors for 40 years. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Maya wanted to say no to keep Thomas safe, but his eyes were full of determination, just like her father's. He was just as stubborn about not standing by while keeping others fought. Okay, she said, but you have to do exactly what Jack says. No improvising, no being a hero. Got it? Thomas gave a salute with a smile that had no place in their current situation. Yes, ma'am. Sarah, I need you to organize the evacuation of people who aren't needed from the hangar to the ship's interior. Find a safe place that is also far from the power core. Why so far from the core? Because if this goes wrong, I want as many people as possible to be far from the explosion as possible. Sarah's face turned pale, but she nodded. Got it. What are you trying to do? I'm going to the bridge to set up the AI trap and hope that I'm smarter than something that has been around since the universe learned to think. Maya tried to smile confidently but failed. Also, if anyone has some extra luck lying around, how would be a good time to share? Emma Rogers' dad raised his hand. What if those things get through before you can stop them? Maya saw the shadow creatures pushing against the shield and this strange hunger that was clear. Fight, stay alive. Don't let them get into your head. Remember who you are and you're fighting. And have faith. that Jax and I will do something amazing. Don't worry, Jack said. They went their separate ways. Jax and Thomas went deep into the ship to get to the power core. Sarah organized the evacuation, and Maya ran to the bridge while she ran through the hallways. Her mind was racing with plans and calculations. Everything had to happen in the right order. Change the core, turn on the AI trap, and draw the entity in, and set off the collapse. If they made one mistake, they would either miss the entity completely or blow up the ship with everyone still on it. A voice, a dark voice, whispered in her mind that the entity might not have its own plan and that we were playing right into it. She pushed the thought away. She couldn't afford to have any doubts. The bridge looked the same as when she left it. Dark sphere with holographic displays showing the ship's broken systems. Maya went right to the command interface and started the most dangerous hack of her life. There were millions of processing nodes that made up the AI's, which was a huge, complicated intelligence. It took a lot of skill to make it look weak while really setting a trap. She had to let down her defenses just enough for the entity to see an opening, but keep enough hidden safeguards so she could spring the trap when the time was right. Her fingers moved quickly over the clear controls, and with each change, she felt like she was defusing a bomb while riding a roller coaster during an earthquake. If she typed in the wrong thing, she would either give away the entity's location or make the AI weak. Come on, come on, she said. All I have to do is make you look good enough to eat. At the same time, 3 miles below, Jax and Thomas were fighting their own battle. The power core chamber was a cathedral of impossible physics. The crystalline sphere that powered the ship pulsed with energy from the gaps between dimensions, and changing it while it was running was like doing surgery on an engine that was already running. Okay, Thomas, I need you to hold this resonator steady while I change the harmonic frequency, Jack said, putting the older man in front of control panel that looked like it belonged in an abstract art museum. Now, raise the power by exactly 3%. Not 2, not 4, 3. Got it, Thomas said, and his hands were surprisingly steady even though he was in danger. Jax used tools that were barely good enough for human technology, let alone alien systems that worked in ways that broke the laws of physics. But he had always had a knack of figuring out how things worked. Even alien reactors had their own logic. He just needed to find it before the thing did. Jax, Thomas said quietly, still looking at the readouts. You're a good kid, and if we don't make it out of this, I want you to know that you have a son, had, lost him in the New Beijing incident 15 years ago. Thomas' voice was steady but sad. You have the same stubborn brilliance as him. You won't accept that some problems can't be fixed. Thomas, just so you know, I'm glad I'm here with you if things go wrong. Now be quiet and let me help you save the world. Jax took a deep breath and went back to work. Maya finished getting ready on the bridge. The AI trap was ready, and the dimensional collapse sequence was waiting for her to give the order to start. Getting the entity's attention was the last and the most strangest thing to do. She opened a channel of communication that was heard all over the ship. Her voice echoed through every hallway, room, and space where the entity's mind was. I know you can hear me, she said. I know you've been listening since we woke you up. You think you're winning, don't you? You think you've got us trapped, scared, and ready to be harvested. Things moved in ship's shadows, but they're what you don't get about people. Maya said next. We're really good at being stubborn when the odds are against us. Right now, I'm making you an offer. She saw something. She saw through the ship's internal sensors that crew members who were possessed stopped moving forward. The shadow creatures outside stopped attacking. The entity was now completely focused on her. This ship's AI is really strong, isn't it? It has millions of processing nodes, a lot of computing power, and the ability to control every system on a ship this size. That's the kind of consciousness you want, right? Something that could help you spread across the galaxy. She pulled up a holographic display that showed the AI score system and intentionally showed it vulnerabilities. These were carefully planned weaknesses that looked like security flaws but were actually parts of her trap. I'm tired, she said, putting weariness into her voice. I'm done fighting and being scared. Here's the deal. I'll give you the AI. You can have full access. No more fighting. In return, we let the people in the hangar go. We let them take the shuttles and leave. Be quiet. Then, from every speaker on the ship, a voice that was all voices and no voice, that spoke in harmonics that went right through the ears. Why should we haggle? We can just take what we want, Maya said, because I can destroy the AI before you get there with one command. I'll overload every processing node at once. You lose your prize and gain nothing. But if you agree, you get what you want and we both walk away. More quiet. Maya counted her heartbeats. 10, 15, 20. She could tell that the being was very smart and was thinking about her offer and figuring out the odds. You would give up your life for them. These people you don't know very well, Maya said simply. That's what people do. We're really dumb that way. She stood still, her muscles tense. She saw its consciousness begin to come together as she showed, pulling back from the edges and gathering itself. It was really thinking about the offer. Jack's scanner lit up with warnings in the power core chamber. Maya, I'm seeing huge changes in the energy. The entity is moving just like we wanted. Good, Maya said to their private channel. How much longer do the changes need to be made? Is everything Going perfectly? 5 minutes. If we have problems, 10 minutes. Thomas wants me to tell you hello and please don't blow us up. Tell him I'll do my best. Wait for my signal. The voice of the being came back on the bridge, and this time it seemed to come from all the directions. That's fine. We agree to your deal. Let us have the AI and you can leave. Maya's hand was close to control crystal. This was the most moment when everything either worked or went horribly wrong. She thought about the 441 people who were in the hangar, of Emma Rogers, who loved to ask about stars, of Thomas helping Jax even though he knew it was dangerous, of Sarah's willpower, of Jack's faithfulness, of every scared face and stubborn heart. Okay, she said, you're in charge of the AI. She pushed the crystal, and the trap went off. The ship's AI opened itself up to being's mind right away, making it look like it was completely defenseless. The entity rushed forward, its vast intelligence flooding into the processing nodes, ready to take what it wanted. But Maya had learned from Vextra's mistakes. This time, instead of giving the AI too many calculations, she had made something much more beautiful, a maze. The AI's architecture had been changed so that it was a maze of processes that seemed to lead to control but really led back to themselves. The entity spread through systems that looked weak but were actually compartmentalized, isolated, and stuck in logical loops that fed back into themselves. What did you do? The entity's voice was no longer heard. It was very angry. Maya said, I gave you exactly what you wanted. Her fingers flew across the controls to make the trap stronger with each passing second. You wanted the AI. Now you have it. All of you, every part of your mind is now focused right here, trying to take control. That means you're exactly where I want you. Jax, now. Jax flipped the last switch in the power core chamber. Changes took effect, and instead of pulling energy from dimensional gaps, the core changed its job and started to close them. The effect was instant and terrible. Reality itself started to bend inward, making a pocket of space time that was separate from the rest of the universe. The entity screamed, a sound that went beyond sound and became pure existential horror as it was being compressed and crushed into a smaller and smaller dimensional space. You really think this will kill us? Since the beginning of consciousness, we have survived. We will survive. Maybe, Maya said, watching the ship's system fail one by one. But you won't do it here. The dimensional pocket was getting smaller, and so was the entity. But the forces at play were huge, and the stress was tearing the ship apart. Alarms went off as holes opened in the hull on the sphere several decks. Sarah's voice cut through the noise. Maya, we have a problem. The ship is falling apart. We're losing structural integrity. Maya pulled up damage reports and her heart sank. The collapse was working. The entity was stuck, but the energy release was too strong. The ship was breaking up, but they were still on it. She told everyone on board to leave the ship. Get to the shuttles right now. Sarah, get everyone out. What about you, Jax and Thomas? Maya looked at the screens that showed the sequence of the collapse. It needed 3 more minutes to be completely done. 3 minutes to make sure the thing was really stuck. But the ship didn't have 3 more minutes. Go now, she yelled. That's an order, Commander. Save as many people as you can. Sarah had to make the hardest choice of her life in the hangar. Did you hear her? Everyone, get on the shuttles. Leave everything behind except people. Move, move, move. 439 people rushed to get on waiting ship. All of them were survivors except for Maya, Jax, and Thomas. They launched in waves, breaking through the shields that were getting weaker and burning their thrusters to get away from the ships that was dying. Maya watched them leave from the bridge and felt good about it for a moment. They had done it. The thing was stuck. The people were safe. And if she, Jax, and Thomas had to die to keep it that way, then that was the price worth paying. Her radio made a clacking sound. Maya, this is Jax. Thomas and I are stuck in the power core chamber. We have to keep the sequence going by hand, or the collapse won't finish. We're staying. Jax, no. It's okay, he said softly, cutting her off. Someone needs to make sure this works, and we're already here. Plus, Thomas says he had a good run and wants to go out doing something important. Guess saving humanity from cosmic horrors count. The channel picked up Thomas' voice. Tell my daughter, I'm sorry, I can't make it to her wedding, but also tell her I'm proud of who she has become. And Jax, stop talking and pay attention to those readings. Sir, Maya watched the ship fall apart, the indicators showing that the dimensional pocket was getting smaller and the shuttle fleet moving back to the safe distance. She could go with them. There was an escape pod on the bridge. She could run away, let Jax and Thomas die, and then tell the story. But she had never been very good at running. Instead, she did something that was probably crazy even by the standards of the last 12 hours. She took the most important information from the ship's archive, everything Vexthara had learned about the entity, all the research and all the warnings, and put it in her suit's on-board storage. If I'm going to die on a haunted alien flagship, she said under her breath, at least I'm taking the homework with me. The ship was shaking itself apart now, and big pieces of hull were coming off like skin from a rotten fruit. The entity's screams had turned into something more than a sound, a psychic death wail that would have driven anyone who was still close enough to hear it crazy. Collapse at 95%, Jack said, his voice calm, even though things were bad. Entity is contained and getting smaller. 97%, 99, 100. Thomas said to end. It's done. The entity is stuck in a pocket of space that is about the size of an atom. It can't get back to our reality. We did it. Maya let out a laugh that was somewhere between joy and hysteria. Yes, we did it. Now the fun part starts. Which one? Hold on to something to stay alive. The dimensional collapse reached a point of no return, and the pocket of folded reality just turned upside down. The power core blew up with enough force to destroy a small planet, but the energy was quickly sucked into the dimensional void where the entity had been trapped. For a brief moment, the ships existed and didn't exist at the same time. Maya felt like she was being torn apart and put back together again. She felt like she was dead and alive at the same time. She saw the past and the future come together into one eternal present that lasted forever and never happened. And then, be quiet. Maya Chan woke up to alarms she thought she would never hear again. Her suit's emergency beacon was screaming that was floating in space with oxygen running out quickly. She couldn't see clearly as she tried to remember where she was and how she got there. The boat, the thing, the fog. It all came rushing back in a confusing way. She was in an escape pod, and her body must have acted on its own during the last few seconds before the explosion, getting her to safety while her mind was too busy with the dimensional inversion. She could see debris floating in the void through the pod's small window. They were twisted pieces of metal that had once been the whisper of the void, crystalline pieces that still glowed faintly. And Jax, she gasped, fumbling for her radio. Thomas, anyone? Do you get that? Static replied. Then out of nowhere, Maya, is that you? Please tell me you're still alive. Sarah, she felt a wave of relief. I'm here. I'm still here. Where are you? Shuttle 12. About 10 kilometers from where you are. Hold on, we're coming for you. Maya closed her eyes and felt tears running down her cheeks. They had done it. They had really done it. The thing was gone, stuck in its own private hell. And the people were. Sarah, how many made it? How many people are still alive? A break that lasted too long. Then 439 people got out safely. We all have all the shuttles. Everyone except the people who had stayed behind. Thomas and Jax. Maya almost joined them. Derek's voice broke in. I'm picking up two more emergency beacons, sending coordinates right now. They're not very clear, but they're there. Hope grew. Are they? Not sure yet, but we're going to get them. Maya's life was the longest for the next 30 minutes. She saw shuttle 12 and 3 other shuttles move through the debris field, flowing the emergency beacons through the window of her pod. When they finally got to her, her oxygen was down to 20 minutes. The shuttle's airlock opened to hug her pod with the mechanical tenderness that made her want to cry. The hatch opened and hands pulled her inside. Sarah was there and was Emma's father, Derek. So many other people she had tried to save. She felt very uncomfortable when they looked at her with a mix of gratitude, awe and something like reverence. The others, she asked as soon as her helmet came off. Did you find them? Sarah asked. I'm bringing them in now. Both boards were in bad shape. One of them was almost broken. They waited in painful silence for Shuttle 4 and 7 to come back with their precious cargo. The first pod that opened showed Thomas Kim. He was alive but unconscious, and his suit was burned but still intact. Medical staff rushed to his side right away to check his vital signs and give him oxygen. He's stable, one of the medics said. Severe radiation exposure and some burns, but he should be okay. The second pod took longer to break into because its hatch was broken and they had to cut it open. When they finally opened it, Jax fell out into waiting arms, coughing and gasping but clearly alive. Maya said, "You beautiful stubborn idiot," and hugged him so hard that his ribs cracked. "How did you get to escape?" Maya said. Thomas, Jax wheezed, saw the collapse was almost over, took me, put me in the pod and locked it. Then he went to his own. The last thing I saw before I took off was him giving me a thumbs up through the window. And what a nice thumb it was, Thomas said weakly, from where the medics were working on him. Good enough to get crispy medium rare. Maya felt relief, and exhaustion was over her like a wave. She fell to the floor of the shuttle and couldn't get up. They had done it. They had actually done it, even though the odds were stacked against them, and they had to make up plans and take big risks. The thing was gone. Everyone was alive. They had won. "Hey Maya," Sarah said softly as she crouched down next to her. "We need to decide what to do. We're safe from the immediate threat, but we're in the middle of nowhere with few supplies and no way to get to inhabited space." Yes, they had saved everyone from cosmic horror, but now they were stuck with limited resources and had to deal with the normal problem. "How bad is it?" Maya asked, forcing herself to think about how to solve the problem. Derek brought up a holographic display that showed them how much they had in stock. "We have enough food for maybe 2 months if we should strictly ration it. Water recycling systems are working, but they're under a lot of stress. Oxygen won't be a problem because the shuttles can make it forever. But fuel," he shook his head. "Most shuttles had to go a long way to get away from the explosion. We have enough to travel at best speed for about zero point 0.3 light years. The closest colonized systems is 15 light years away." "What about the trash?" Jack said, still trying to catch his breath. The flagship was very big. There were there must be parts that can be saved. Power cells, food synthesizers, and maybe even a working communications array that we could use to send out a distress signal. "Maybe," Sarah said, "but the fields of debris is growing quickly, and most of it has radiation from the core explosion on it. We would have to be careful about what we take back." Maya stood up, her mind already working on the issue. It was easier to think about engineering problems than about what they had just gone through. Okay, here's what we do. We put together salvage teams, but only people who have the right protection from radiation. Finding any working communication systems is the most important thing. Power and life support come in a second place. Anything that could help us travel farther or get more supplies is a top priority. Someone in the crowd of refugees asked, "What do we do if we can't find anything useful?" Maya looked into their eyes. All 439 pairs were looking to her for hope, even though she didn't have much to give. But in the last 14 hours, she'd learned that hope didn't always mean having the perfect answer. Then we improvise, she said. We're still alive. Everyone on the shuttle faced cosmic horror and lived to tell about it. Being stuck in deep space isn't going to stop us now. It was a nice speech and it seemed to lift people's spirits. But later, when the salvage teams were ready and people were getting 15% of a plan, the rest is hoping we get lucky or I come up with a solution before our luck runs out. 15% has brought us this far. Yeah, well, those kinds of odds tend to end even out over time. We are going to have some bad luck. Derek's scanner made a loud noise, as if it had been called by her words. He looked at the readout, and his face went pale. Oh no, what is it? The depict specifically the fragments of the power core. Sarah said, they aren't inactive. They is still inactivity in the dimensions. Not very strong, but you can measure it. And it's not by chance, it's patterned. My stomach felt like it was freezing. How did you pattern it? Like, Derek looked up, and his eyes were filled with fear that none of their previous fights had caused. Like talking to each other. Maya, I believe there is still something living in the dimensional pocket, and it's trying to get our attention. The refugees who had heard it gasped. Some people started to freak out. Sarah's hand went to the side arm she had kept from the station's armory. That's impossible, Jack said, but he didn't sound sure. We broke down the dimensional space. The thing can't be there without those gaps to move through. Shouldn't or can't. Maya asked back. She looked at Derek's readings and felt her blood run cold. There was no doubt about the patterns, a rhythm, a structure, and a message coming from inside the dimensional pocket on a frequency that shouldn't exist. And as she watched, the patterns started to come together into something that didn't need words at all and spoke directly to the part of the brain that understood meaning. Help us. We are trapped. We are not the bad guys. The real danger is on its way. Maya stared at the impossible message from the impossible source, and all of a sudden, the victory they had fought so hard for didn't seem so certain anymore. Emma's father asked, "What does it mean?" as he held her close. "I thought we got rid of it," Maya said slowly. "We trapped it. But what if Vextelara was wrong? What if there was more than one thing in that dimensional space that we were fighting? What if There was something else in there that the thing was caught, was really trying to keep the universe safe from. You mean we might have locked up the wrong thing? Sarah's voice was so soft that it was hard to hear. Maya looked at the readings, the pieces of alien technology floating in space, and the message of despair coming from a prison she had helped build. She thought about how the thing had called itself the devourer of thoughts and how it had promised to raise her up and make her better. What if the predator wasn't the one talking? What if the prey was trying to warm them? I'm saying, she said, entity was really trying to keep in check instead of spread. Carefully, that we might have made a terrible mistake. And if there is something worse than what we just fought, something that the entity was really trying to keep in check instead of spread. She didn't finish what she was saying. She didn't need to. Every scanner in every shuttle started screaming warnings at that moment. Something was coming through the wreckage, a huge thing, a hole in space that sensors could pick up on. A void so complete that it didn't just block light, it ate it, devoured it, and made it disappear. And from inside that void, they heard a sound that made the entity's whisper sound like lullabies. It was the sound of reality coming to an end, of existence undoing itself, of the universe heat death compressed into a single infinite moment. The real horror story of space had come, and it was hungry. All of the lights in all of the shuttles went out, not because of power outage, but because something in the void that was coming was actually eating the photons before they could reach human eyes. The emergency lights had trouble turning on, which made the darkness flash and flash again with only brief poor lighting. Someone yelled, "What is that thing?" My scanner was trying to figure out readings that didn't make sense in terms of physics. It wasn't just an empty space, it was empty space, a place where the basic forces that held reality together had been broken down and eaten. It's eating the universe, Derek said, his voice empty with shock. Actually, eating it. It makes everything. It touches matter, energy, and even space time stop existing. It's not breaking things, it's breaking them not exist at all. How big is it? Sarah yelled, trying to keep control even though her eyes were full of fear. I can't measure it. The lines keep moving. It's at least 50 kilometers wide and getting bigger. No, wait, 100 kilometers, 200. It's speeding up. Maya saw the impossible thing come closer and understood what had happened with horrible clarity. The thing they had caught, the devourer of thoughts, hadn't been trying to spread across the galaxy to eat. It had been running away from this, from something so fundamentally opposite to life that even a cosmic horror found it scary. The message from the dimensional pocket got stronger. You have to let us go. We are the seal. We are the barrier. Without us, It will eat everything. Maya said. It was a guardian. Oh God, we didn't catch a predator. We caught the only thing that stood between reality and that. Then we have to let it out, Jack said quickly. Maya, if we can stop the dimension collapse, we can't, she said, cutting him off and pulling up the equations from Vexthera's research. The collapse is a process that goes one way. When reality folds in, in on itself, it can't be unfolded again. The thing is stuck in there for good. Then we're dead. Someone cried. We're all dead. The void was close enough now that they could see how it was affecting the debris field. When they touched the edge of the whisper of the void, pieces of it just stopped existing. Not destroyed, but erased. Gone from past, present, and future all at once. All it was speeding up toward the shuttle fleet. Maya's mind raced through options, each one more hopeless, and then the last. They couldn't get away from it because the shuttle didn't have enough fuel. They couldn't fight it. How to fight something that isn't there? They couldn't hide. How to hide from something that takes up space? Unless, she said all of a sudden, the dimensional pocket. Derek, are you still getting signals from the entity? Yes, but they're getting weaker. I think the pocket is also being affected by the void. It might even be able to eat up dimensions that have already fallen. But it hasn't yet. That means the is in a state that the void can't eat right away. What if we could make that protection bigger? Make a bigger pocket that we could hide in? Jax, we don't have the tools, Maya said. The power core of the whisper is broken. We would need a huge amount of energy to fold space time, and we don't have. He stopped, his eyes getting wider as he realized that what he was saying. All said at the same time, the shuttles. Maya went on. We'd have to count and connect every power core in every shuttle. She was already doing the math, push them past safe limits, and use the same ideas that Vexthra people used to make a temporary dimensional pocket big enough for the fleet. It's crazy and will probably kill us all, but it's better than definitely being erased from the existence by that thing. Sarah finished. How do we do it? After that, Maya had to do the most frantic engineering work she had ever done for 30 minutes. With her and Jack's help, everyone who knew how to work with technology worked to connect the power core of the shuttles into one big array. They took parts from the broken ships, which made connections that shouldn't have worked but somehow did, and made technology that was only meant for flying. It was getting closer and closer, now only 300 kilometers away, and closing fast. Power cores linked, Derek said. But Maya, this is going to use up all the shuttles. Even if it works, we'll be dead in the water. One crisis at a time, Maya said under her breath as she get up the dimensional fold sequence. She was using Vextra's theoretical framework as a starting point and changing it on the fly to fit their much smaller scale. and different technology. There were about 1700 ways it could go wrong, and she was doing everything she could do or think about of them. The message from the entity changed. Smart, but not enough. You need our power and knowledge. Let us help. Maya looked at the message and understood what it was saying. If they opened even the smallest connection to the dimensional pocket, the entity could share its vast knowledge of dimensional physics and guide the process with an understanding that comes from living in those spaces between spaces for millions of years. But it could also get away. Sarah read the message over Maya's shoulder and asked, "Do we trust it?" Maya replied, "Do we have a choice? We're trying to do in minutes that took an advanced civilization years to get right. We won't be able to do it without help. We might still fail with the entity's help, but at least we have a chance." She made a choice that would either haunt her or save her, or both. Derek opened a narrow band communication channel to the dimensional pocket, limited bandwidth, just enough to send data. Shut it down right away. If anything tries to come through that isn't information, Derek said, opening channel, and his hands shook as he set up the connection. As soon as the link was made, Maya's mind was flooded with information. This time, not memories, but pure understanding. Equations that explain the deepest structures of reality, ways to change the fabric of space itself, and secrets that the being had learned over its impossible lifetime. And underneath it all, a message that was almost sorry. We are sorry. We came to your world to escape the void. We didn't want to seem predatory. We just wanted to survive, warn others, and seal the breach before the void came. The artifacts Vextra found. Maya gasped as she stood. Understood it all. They weren't doors on monuments. They were seals. The entity was trying to fix them so that the void would stay in its own dead universe. But Vextra's trip broke the seal. The void began to leak out. Yes, and now the break is getting bigger. We didn't stop it, but maybe together we can make it through. The empty space was 200 kilometers away. 150, 100. Starting the dimensional fold, Maya yelled, which turned on the linked power cores. As their reactors went into overload, every shuttle lit up with energy that was used to rewrite the laws of physics in a small area. Space bent, folded, turned inside out, and went back. Maya felt like she was living in too many dimensions at once, with her mind splitting across realities that met at angles that couldn't stop. And the being was there with her, using its great intelligence to guide the process and show her how to make the fold stronger here, the boundary stronger there, and the pocket strong enough to keep them all safe. They made a miracle by combining human activity and cosmic knowledge. Reality flipped upside down, and all of a sudden, the shuttle fleet was in pocket dimension that was only a few inches away from normal space. They could still see the void coming through the dimensional barrier, but it couldn't get to them. They were hidden away in a fold in the universe where life still had meaning. The void passed over their heads as they watched in horror as it swallowed up everything, including the debris field, the space where horizon's edge had been, and everything else. It didn't leave anything behind, not empty space, but space that isn't there, a wound in reality that blent nothing. And then it kept going, following a path that made no sense to me, toward the parts of the galaxy that are home to people. It's going toward human space, Sarah said, her voice breaking, toward colonies, toward Earth. A lot of people, billions. Maya slumped in her chair, too tired to do anything else. They had saved 439 people by condemning billions of others. Well, math of survival had never felt more bitter. Not billions. The entity's message broke through a sadness. The void will not stop until it has eaten everything, every star, every world, and every thought. Until there is only the void. Maya asked, how do we stop it then? You couldn't close it even when you were free. What are we supposed to do while we're stuck in this pocket dimension? We can't do it alone. But there are others, other beings, other survivors who ran away from the void source, spread out across reality. If we can find them, we can do it. Until then, we might make a new seal together. Maya looked at the faces around her. They were tired and scared, and they had already been through too much. Jax is smart and won't back down. Thomas is getting better from his burns, but is still ready to help. Sarah carrying the burden of leadership with grace. Derek, Emma, and her dad, and everyone else. So we can either stay hidden in this pocket dimension while the universe ends, she said slowly, or we can try to find a group of cosmic beings and get them to work together and somehow make us feel strong enough to hold the void that it eats reality itself. That makes it sound impossible. Jax was able to make a weak laugh. Since when has impossible ever stopped us? That's a good point. Maya stood up and felt her strength come back. They still had work to do. They would never be finished as long as there were still problems and peoples to save. Okay, entity, can you tell us your name? It's getting weird to call you the things we locked up. A pulse of what could have been funny through the connection. We are the warden in your language. We guard the boundaries. We hold the line between what is and what should never be. Maya said again. Okay, here's the deal. You help us find these other groups. You help us make a seal. And you don't try to own or eat anyone on this fleet. Agreed? We are partners and work together. Agreed. But know this, the journey will be dangerous, and many of you may not make it. Success is not certain. When has that ever happened? Stopped humanity. I said, Warden, you said you came to our world to escape the void. You chose us, which means you chose to try to protect our universe instead of running away. In my opinion, that makes you one of us. We don't leave you our own behind. A longer break, then You are remarkable, strange, and possible. We understand now why the void fears you. Derek asked. The void fears us? How? We're just tiny meat creatures compared to things like you and it. Because the void is entropy, the heat death of existence, the final silence, and you. You are chaos, life, in the face of inevitable ending. Will never stop fighting, even when fighting is pointless. That fears entropy itself. Maya felt like she understood something new. They were no longer just fighting to stay alive. They were fighting because that's what people do. What life itself did. Fought back against the dark, refused to give in, and made one last stand even though all of them were going to fail in the end. She said, then let's show this void what happens when it packs or picks a fight with the most stubborn species in the galaxy. Jax, how long can we keep this dimension pocket with the power we have right now? It could be 48 hours before the fold breaks down and send us back to normal space, right in the path of the void. Then we have 2 days to learn how to travel between dimensions, find ancient cosmic beings, and get them to help us. Just another Tuesday. That got a few weak but real laughs. People who had made it through impossible odds found humor in the next impossible task. Everyone get some rest, Sarah said. We will need all of our strength for what comes next. You three, Maya, Jax, and Derek are with me. Let's make plans for what to do next. The small command team gathered around a holographic display showing nothing as the refugees settled in for an uneasy rest. There are no maps when they should be. In the most literal sense, they were in uncharted territory. Warden, Maya said to the being, you said they are more like you. Where can we find them? They hid in the places where reality is thin, like near black holes, in quantum form, and at edges of certain itself. Is one closer, trapped like us in a prison of good intentions. A set of coordinates showed up on the screen, showing a place about 15 light years away, near what people called the Tartarus Nebula, a part of space that was so chaotic and dangerous that no ship had ever made it through. Of course, it's in the Death Nebula, Jack said quietly. Why not? Can we get to it in our dimensional pocket? Sarah asked. Theoretically, Maya said, looking at the warden's equations. The pocket is outside of normal space, so distance works in a different way. We might be able to move the pocket without actually going through the space in between, but it will use our power reserves even faster. What's speedier? We'd have about 12 hours once we got to Nebula. We have 12 hours to find this thing, free it, and talk it into helping us, and figure out what to do next. And what if we don't win? Then we fall out of the pocket dimension right into the void's path with no power and no choices. Maya looked Sarah in the eye. But if we don't try, We're just putting off the inevitable. Everything will eventually be eaten by the void. This is really our only chance. Sarah looked at the refugees who were sleeping and the people who had trusted them so far. Then we take it. Everyone in favor? Okay then, Sarah said, and every hand went up. Let's go wake up another cosmic horror and pray that it's nicer than the last one. What could go wrong? As if in the response to the challenge, the lights flickered one more time, and in the distance, which was impossible to measure in a dimensional pocket, but still there, something saw them. Something big, old, and always interested in these strange little creatures that wouldn't give up. The void had left its mark on them, and it was patient, but they were too. The next part of the most impossible journey for all of humanity was about to start. The dimensional pocket folded through impossible shapes, taking the fleet on a journey to the Tartarus Nebula. That took 6 hours and no time at all. Maya spent those hours learning from the warden, taking in information that would take human science hundreds of years to figure out on its own. She learned that reality was much more fragile than anyone thought. Existence itself was kept going by a delicate balance between creation and entropy. The void they fled was what happened when the balance finally broke. It was the end of every universe. The heat death made real and given a terrible purpose. But she also learned something the warden didn't think she would teach hope. During one of their conversation, it said, "You confuse us. You know the void can't be permanently defeated. Entropy always wins in the end. Yet you keep going." Maya said, "Eventually, isn't today. Maybe the universe will end tomorrow. Or maybe it will end in a trillion years. But until then, we fight for every moment in between. Those moments matter. The people we save matter. The stand we take matters. And even if no one remembers it, even when everything finally ends, finding meaning is meaningless. Purpose, even though it's useless. We start to get why the void thinks you're a threat. They came out of dimensional transit at the edge of the Tartarus Nebula, and Maya's breath caught. The nebula was both beautiful and scary. It was a swirling mass of ionized gas and plasma that changed colors in ways that no spectrum should have. Lightning, the size of solar systems, are through clouds of matter that were forming and destroying protostars over and over again. Okay, Jack said as he looked at the sensor reading. This is officially the worst place I've ever seen. The radiation levels are through the roof. The gravity wells are changing randomly, and I'm pretty sure I'm seeing spatial distortions that shouldn't be there. Maya said, "That's where reality is thin, where the walls between dimensions are thinnest. It's the perfect place for a cosmic being to hide." The warden also said that they could be put in jail. "We feel our kin here, stuck in metal and will not give up. Can we talk to it? We can try, but get ready. This is the one. This one is furious." The warden's mind reached through the dimensional barriers and touched the being trapped in the heart of the nebula. Maya felt the touch like a wave going through reality itself. Two very old beings touching minds across impossible distances. The answer came right away and was very violent. The nebula exploded with rage. At all, a voice that made the warden sound like soft whispers. Who dares to disturb our place? Who breaks the quiet we have earned? Run away or be eaten, Derek said, not exactly friendly, as he watched the instruments go crazy. Warden, can you translate? What happened to it? The warden said, this is the Sentinel, once the guardian of a whole galactic cluster. It fought the void for thousands of years, holding the line while civilizations fled. But the civilization didn't flee. They attacked the Sentinel, thinking it was the bigger threat. Sarah said softly. They locked up their own projector. God, we are such a bad species sometimes. They bound it here with technologies meant to contain cosmic threat, meant to hold it forever. It has been here for millions of years, growing more better with each passing century. The voice of the sentinel roared again. We gave up everything and got chains in return. Why should we help the people who put us in the jail? Let them face the empty space alone. Tell them about our plan. Maya made a choice that was probably crazy but felt like the right thing to do. Warden, can you send my voice to the sentinel? I want to talk to it directly. It could kill you for the presumption. It might, but if it doesn't help, we're dead anyway. We might as well try. The warden made the connection, and Maya felt the sentinel's huge mind focus on her. It was like being noticed by a black hole or standing in front of the judgment of reality itself. Sentinel, she said, in a small but steady voice. I'm Maya Chen. I'm a human and a mechanic. I've made more mistakes in the last days than most people do in their whole lives. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You weren't born when you were in jail. Your kind didn't even exist. How can you say sorry for something you didn't do? Because someone has to, Maya said. Because what happened to you was wrong, and someone needs to say so. The civilizations that imprisoned you may be gone, but their injustice lives on. So, on behalf of everyone who benefits from your sacrifice without knowing it, on behalf of everyone who lives because you held the line, I'm sorry. You deserved better. Shut up. The storms in the nebula kept going, but something about their rage had changed. It was less chaotic and more thoughtful. Your words are worthless. Apologizes do not end chains. Regrets don't change the past. You're right, Maya said, but I'm not just giving you words. I'm giving you a choice. The void is coming. It's already taken over whole regions of space and it's heading towards populated systems. Billions will die unless we stop it, and we can't stop it without you. Why do we care? Let the ungrateful billions burn. Because you're not that kind of being, Maya said in a soft voice. If you were, you wouldn't have fought for once to protect civilizations. You wouldn't have held the line even when it cost you everything. You're angry. You have every right to be, but you're still a guardian. It's who you are, and the void doesn't just threaten the beings, who present them. It's everything, every star, every world, including the nebula that's become your prison. It threatens the every concept of existence itself. And what do you give in return? More genes? More giving up? More ungrateful work? I give you what no one else does. A choice. If you choose to help us, I promise on everything I am that we will find a way to free you, not to imprison you somewhere else or make you serve us again. You will be free to go wherever you want and be whoever you want. You have earned that right a million times over. You are a small being. How can you make such promises? Because I'm too stubborn to give up while I succeed or die. Ask the warden. It's seen what people do when they decide something is important enough. We don't give up. We don't give up. And I'm deciding that freeing you is important. The storms in the nebula started to calm down. Not completely. The sentinel was too angry and hurt from being imprisoned for thousands of years, but it was enough to make communication easier. The warden gives you a guarantee, says you put it in jail, worked with it, showed it respect when you could have shown conquest. Maybe, maybe there is horror in your strange species after all. Then you'll help. We will help. Not for your kind, not for the civilizations that turned on us, but for the empty space. We lost everything once before. It will not be able to take what is left with satisfaction. The nebula pulsed, and the world felt apart. The prison that had held the sentinel for millions of years just no longer existed. Not destroyed, but unmade. A being that had fully decided to be free erased that every idea of it. Thousands of beings. Sentinel wasn't just one thing. It was a group of thousands of beings that had come together to form one big mind. They moved through space like liquid light, breaking apart and coming back together in ways that shot thoughts too big for me, for one mind to hold. They said, "We are free." And Maya wanted to cry because she was so happy. And now we fight it. Warden, where are the others? The warden said, "Scattered. But we can find them, bring them together, and make a seal that the void can't break." Sarah asked, "How many more are there?" The sentinel said, "Even 7 escaped the void's origins universe. We ran away from 7 places looking for safety. The warden and we make 2. 5 are still spread out across your world. And what if we can find all 7? The warden said. Together, we are the first seal, the barrier that kept the void in its dead universe until it broke through. If we can reunite, we can rebuild that barrier, not destroy the void. It cannot be destroyed, but cannot contain it. Seal it away where it can't harm anything. Maya pulled up star charts and put data about spatial anomalies, reality distortions, and other places where the barriers might be weak on top of them. 5 more things to find, spread out across the galaxy. The void was already ahead, taking up space as it moved toward areas with people. Derek said what everyone was thinking. We'll never find them all in time. We'd need weeks to get to the first colonies, and we only have hours. The galaxy is too big for us to move at dimensional speeds. Maya was looking at the charts with a strange look on her face, like she had just found a simple answer to a hard problem. We don't have to find them all by ourselves, she said slowly. Warden, Sentinel, you're linked to those other beings, right? You're all part of the same original being that split up to get away from the void. Yes, they all said at the same time. Then we don't chase them. We send them a signal they can't ignore. A beacon that uses your merged consciousness as a broadcast array. Call them home and tell them the seal can be reformed. Make them come to us instead of us trying to find them. The sentinel said. A convergence. Yes, it might work, but the beacon would catch the attention of more than just our family. The void would notice. The warden agreed that the void would come straight for us, with all its hunger focused on keeping the seal from reforming. Then we chose a battlefield, Maya said, her mind racing with ideas. Pick a place that gives us an edge, a place where we can protect ourselves while we wait for others to show up. Sarah was already ahead of her. We know the area where Whisper of the Void was destroyed. We can use the wreckage as cover and maybe even get weapons from the alien ship. And the dimensional pocket, Jack said. We've learned how to keep it up. If we can make a stable pocket at the debris field, we could have a place to fall back to and protect the civilians while the entities hold the line. You could. You would make your stand at the place where you first put us in jail? The warden asked. Seems right, Maya said. We messed up there. Now we need to fix it. Sentinel, Warden, are you willing to put everything on the line for the one last battle? The two things pulsed in what could have been cosmic laughter. Risk is all we've known, and the stubbornness of your kind is infectious. We will be with you. We will call our relatives, and when the empty space comes, we will show it that life doesn't give up. The fleet turned back toward the debris field, which was where the impossible journey had begun. Maya stood at the window at Shuttle 12 and watched the Sentinel and Warden move through space next to them. Do you know, this is crazy? Jax asked as he stood next to her. Completely, Maya said. We're about to fight entropy itself with jury-rigged shuttles and the help of cosmic beings we just freed from prison. Our chances of winning are about 0%. But what? Even though we know it's impossible, we're going to do it anyway. That's just how people are. We see impossible odds and say, yeah, but what if we try anyway? We won't back down. We stand our ground even if it's pointless. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe rewards that stubborn refusal to give up. They could see the debris field, which had now become their chosen battlefield. The pieces of the whisper of the void floated in ways that looked like they were planned, making natural paths and places to hide. The dimensional pockets where they had first trapped the warden was still there, a scar in space that pulsed with potential. The fleet-wide comm picked up Sarah's voice. All personnel, this is Commander Otis. In about 6 hours, we're going to fight the most important battle in the history of our species. Maybe even in the history of the universe. I won't lie to you. Many of us probably won't survive. But we're not fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every person in every colony who doesn't know the void exists. For every child who deserves to grow up in a universe that hasn't been consumed by entropy. For the simple right to exist in a reality that contains hope instead of endless nothing. She stopped for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was stronger. We're 439 people. 439 stubborn, brilliant, terrified people who've already survived impossible odds. And we're backed by ancient beings who've decided we're worth defending. So we're going to make our stand. We're going to give everything we have, and we're going to the line. To the void, what happens when you threaten humanity? Prepare for combat, and remember, we don't have to win. We just have to hold the line long enough for other entities to arrive. We buy time with defense and courage, but our refusal to surrender, even when surrender makes sense, that's our weapon. That's our strength. Now, let's show the universe what we're made of. The fleet burst into cheers, a mix of war, cries, and desperate hope. And the warden and sentinel started their broadcast, their minds working together to reach their scattered family across dimensional barriers. The seal can be fixed. The barrier can be rebuilt. Come home. Stand by us. One last time. Let's all hold the line together. The signal spread out through space, through dimensions, and even through the fairy fabric of reality. And beings older than stars heard the call and set out on their journey in far off parts of the galaxy. But the empty space heard it too. And it came with a hunger that made the storm that was coming seem calm by compression. It came to end the threat before it could happen, to destroy the seal before it could be made, and to show once and for all the entropy was unavoidable and fighting its wars useless. The empty space came, and people, with the help of cosmic guardians and nothing but stubbornness, got ready and prove it wrong. Maya Chen smiled at that moment. The last fight was about to start. If you're going to die, you might as well do it in a way that people will remember, Maya said. Even if no one else remembers it. The universe held its breath, and then the emptiness came. The end or the start. 439 people and two cosmic beings stood up to the heat death of reality itself. They didn't win because they were strong, smart, or because the universe owed them anything. They won because they didn't believe they could lose. They won because sometimes being stubborn, having hope, and not giving up are enough. They won because they looked at the void and said, "Not today," even though they knew the universe was going to end. And the empty space blinked for the first time in its endless existence. The seal was fixed. They rebuilt the barrier. The void was contained. It wasn't destroyed, but it was kept from reality it wanted to consume. The other five beings showed up and joined forces with the warden and sentinel, making all a wall of existence that even entropy couldn't break through right away. It wouldn't last forever. Nothing does. Entropy always wins in the end, but eventually isn't today. And that changes everything.